Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of VC TV. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott, and we're going to be talking about our favorite subject here at VC TV, and that is blockchain. But we're going to go a few levels deeper because there's so much going on in this industry. Today, we're going to talk about blockchain in entertainment, gaming, esports, and sports sectors. There's a ton happening. We've got reports from nonfungible.com along with Masari that there's been over $2 billion in transaction volume around the NFT market already in Q1. Now, remember, in 2020, there was 250 million for the entire year. And for this first quarter of the year, we did $2 billion. That does not include NBA Top Shot and Nifty Gateways as well. So assume that number's even bigger as well. But what about what's happening with gaming? What's happening with esports? What's happening in these other industries? Let's break it down. A big shout out to the LATOKEN team and to Maria for making today's episode possible. Let's jump right in and introduce my co-host for today. James, welcome back to the show. A little intro, a little background.
Mackie, it's great to be back. And name's James Santor. I'm the director of marketing at 76 Capital. And we're VC focused strictly in the sports space. So esports, sports betting, and the general sports tech space. So NFTs are very, very current and practical in the space. So we're really excited to kind of see the growth, especially these past few months. So a lot of exciting things happening. We've seen Tom Brady start his own company, which bring in some other athletes and entertainers as well. So that's it's really exciting for us.
Absolutely. That's just one of many, as we've seen more athletes and more celebrities also start to release their new companies around this industry and take advantage of the opportunity as it lasts. We had Topps come out yesterday with news that they're going to be releasing their entire Major League Baseball 2021 card packs fully digital for the first time ever, no physical. So get ready, ladies and gentlemen, more to talk about that. We'll come to James here in a moment for that. Joseph, welcome. A little intro, a little background for everybody.
Hey, thank you, Kyle, and everybody here. I'm Joseph Shomali. I'm actually here pitching our startups, Play Arabi. So we're in gaming, a publisher focused on the MENA region, the Arabic speakers in the Middle East. It's not a lot of people know about it. It's exciting. It's growing very rapidly, and it's home to the biggest spenders in games in the world. So thank you for having me.
Wonderful. Thank you, Joseph. And go ahead and get your presentation ready. We're going to finish out introductions and come right back to you. So Harsh, with that, a quick little introduction and background, please.
Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Harsh Yetia. I'm a venture partner with our Ventures. We've done 60 plus investments till date with over $30 million of funds raised till date. And we're completely sector agnostic, fintech, marketing tech, health tech, SaaS, basically anything technology we like to get our hands on. I'm also a founder of Startup Hackers, where we are helping early stage startups, primarily in India and Southeast Asia, kind of reach to a minimum level so that they can scale, and then the VCs can take over and scale them to unicorns. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you as well, Harsh. Gianpaolo, last but not least, a little intro, a little background. Welcome back.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kyle. Welcome, everybody. This is Gianpaolo Parigi. I'm a serial entrepreneur, created about 30 companies in my career. I'm an investor, a VC, private equity specialist, chairman of a single family office out in New York, and a partner in a private equity group in California called ACC, American Colonial Capital. I'm also in the tech space with a tech amalgamator in the European Union, which is addressing the needs of companies and tech startups, seed, pre-seed, pre-series A around the world. And we got three sectors in one today, which are very, very intriguing. Esports definitely is posed for exponential growth, but it's the smallest one at 2 billion, though it's growing very, very phenomenally. Entertainment, I think, is the sector that contains everything and about 800 billion globally. Although this year, particularly in the movie and the theater industry, there's been a dent in the performance because of the COVID and the theaters being closed in many parts of the world. The market has some losses, but overall, it's a gigantic industry. And gaming is a portion of this. It's about 180 billion globally. So this is another fantastic sector and full of very good ventures. So without further ado, back to you, Kyle, and to our pitch deck today.
Thank you very much, Gianpaolo. By the way, I like the sweatshirt game you've got going on. Every day this week on VCTV, you've been representing someone different, so this is exciting to see. With that, Harsh, James, and Gianpaolo, we're going to have Joseph pitch. So he's got an exciting company he wants to share with us. Joseph, you'll have 5 minutes on the clock, a hard 5 minutes. And after that, I'll come around to each of our investors for a quick piece of feedback or a question for you. We'll have you give a shout out afterwards so the audience knows where to connect with you. And then we'll continue on diving a little deeper into today's discussion as well. So I'm going to bring your presentation up. And Joseph, when you're ready, the clock is yours.
Yeah, thank you again, Kyle and everybody. Amazing to be here. I'll start now again. I'm Joseph Shomali, co-founder and CEO of Play Arabi, a games publisher that targets the high-paying users from the MENA region. So Arabic speakers are some of the biggest spenders in games. While the average revenue per paying user globally is between $25 and $30, the average in Saudi is $270. However, as you know, games that support the Arabic language are very few, and games that fit the Arabic culture are even less. To take advantage of this opportunity, Play Arabi scouts for successful games that target high-paying users, localizes them, and publishes them in Arabic. We focus on multiplayer, mid-core, and hardcore games because the top-grossing mobile games in the region are mostly mid-core and hardcore games that are localized to Arabic. This is because mid-core and hardcore games like Clash of Kings allow for more spending than casual games like Candy Crush, for example. So what we do at Play Arabi is partner with developers to localize and publish their games in Arabic. Our approach includes deep localization, where we localize not only the text, but also graphics, characters, story, music, and monetization. Therefore, instead of building games from scratch, our process integrates with the developers after the game has been released. Of course, this approach minimizes cost, time to market, and the risk of failure, as games we work with are already proven. Here's the exciting part. We focus on high-paying users, or whales. Whales are game spenders who spend a minimum of $1,000 over their lifetime in a game. They actually constitute 2 to 3% of all game spenders, but the percentage in countries like Saudi goes up to 12%. And we use data-driven and iterative approach to user acquisition, working with multiple channels, influencers, and stores, with a focus on acquiring a healthy percentage of whales on the games we publish. As you know, the sector is quite competitive, but we hold quite a unique position in the market as we focus only on mid-core and hardcore games, as well as deep regional and cultural localization. To compare with some of our regional competitors, Babel is a regional publisher. They have a minimal approach to localization, but they got acquired in a multiple of more than 5x in 2016. And we also have Tomatum and Boss Bunny, who focus on hyper-casual and casual games instead of mid-core and hardcore games. We work on a revenue share business model where stores take 30% of the revenues, and then we give developers between 30 and 40%, leaving Play Arabi share between 42 and 49% of gross revenue. We make our money from players spending inside the game, so through in-app purchases only, no ad revenue. A single purchase between $1 and $99, and our records show that our users make more than 10 purchases per month on average. There are a couple of games we published. Kingdoms Online made over $500,000 over its 3-year lifetime, and the average earn per paying user here is 3 times that of the developers. And Swords of Glory, our current flagship, which although still in soft launch, already made more than $250,000 in revenues and is enjoying a staggering average earn per paying user of over $1,250. That is 50 times the global average. And now we're working on optimizing Swords of Glory to triple the user value through optimizing retention and conversion rates, which will allow us to scale Swords of Glory to generate near $3 million this year and over $15 million next year. We've also signed a new Balot game to be soft launching in a couple of weeks. Balot is a hardcore card game native to the Saudi market, and we believe this can also be one of the top grossing games in the region. So by scaling Swords of Glory, introducing Balot, and signing more games, we believe we'll cross $3 million in revenues this year, scale to over $17 million next year, and grow further. By 2023, Play Arabi will be valued at over $100 million in the smallest estimates. The company was founded by regional industry veterans from different backgrounds. I come from a product and production background, and Ahmed comes from a localization and publishing background. We both met at Peak Games, the Turkish gaming giant that exited to Zynga for $1.8 billion last year. And we're currently raising around between $750,000 and $1 million in order to scale Swords of Glory, introduce Balot, and sign more games, which will take us to a formidable Series A in 12 to 18 months. So thank you. Thank you again for having me. I'm Joseph. This is Play Arabi. Games in Arabic.
Joseph, great job. Great job on timing. Great job on the pitch as well. James, I want to come to you first. Any feedback, any thoughts or questions for Joseph and his team?
Yeah, no, Joseph, thanks for the presentation. I think it's awesome. And I think you're definitely attacking a need in the market, which I think is the biggest issue anytime you're creating a company. And for me, I guess the one thing I was curious of is when optimizing the game versus building the new game, what are you seeing for the forecast of like the actual revenues coming from that in the short term versus the long term? Like, are you more focused on building new games after this, or is it really optimizing that one game to a level where that's going to be the main focus with a few other games on the side? So like, is it really trying to find that one game?
Okay, so let's call it the end game would be having our own games, which we either develop, license, or commission as our own IPs. At this point, we are a third-party publisher, so we don't own IPs, which helps us master the actual localization of the region more and more, which means once we start having our own IPs, we would already have more of that experience and focus.
Got it. No, thank you. That's very helpful.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, Harsh, any questions or feedback for Joseph and his team?
Hi, Joseph. Nice presentation and nice business as well. So I just wanted to understand, are you going to focus only on the MENA region, or do you plan to expand outwards as well? And the second part of the question is, you mentioned that you are focusing primarily on the high-paying users, right? Do you plan to kind of diversify and include more regular users as well? Because even though the numbers are higher and they obviously put a lot of load on your bandwidth, the quantum of revenue which comes from them could, individually they may be small, but collectively they can become huge source of revenue for you in the future as well.
So thank you very much for these questions. The first question is, are we going to focus on the MENA region? The concept is what we like to call a localization publisher. So now we're doing Arabic, it's where we know. Soon we can expand to Turkey, which is a similar market. We like to go to what we consider are unique markets that are not where the common, let's call it very globalized culture is not the main thing in there. So Turkey can be one of them, and then markets like Russia, parts of Latin America, other parts of Southeast Asia, and whatnot. So something very interesting about a lot of these markets is if you look at the charts today, most of them are mid-core and hardcore games that are in the top grossing, where compared to many countries for example, the US and a lot of countries in Europe, where casual games are actually starting to become on top. Whether this is because of the current low conversion rate for paying users compared to the rest of the world, or because of the ability to spend more per user, this is the current situation. Now, what happens in the future can change that approach. So, in short, yes, we are willing to expand. The plan is what we call unique markets, because we have a strong localization ability. And then, as things changes, we could start going globally. Something interesting: Swords of Glory, we might take it to Turkey and other countries as well with the developers. And the Balot game, once it is fine-tuned, we might have something similar, for example, the French Belote, and then publish it to other countries. So every game we take, we think of that potential, and entrepreneurs are opportunistic after all, so it depends on that.
Thank you, Joseph. Gianpaolo.
Thanks for that.
Yeah, Gianpaolo, any questions or feedback?
Yes, a couple of questions, Joe. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you.
Although I think it's too big of a deck, if you ask me. You don't want to pitch with 36 pages, people like us, not because we doze off or anything, but it's just too much. I think you should just extrapolate, the nuts and bolts and just make it a shorter deck if you want to raise capital. I also, allow me to be to play the devil's advocate here, but I don't think $1 million is going to get you anywhere you need to go in terms of the business proposition. I don't think that 1 million is going to get you into the position of generating sustainable revenues. And that's something that I wanted to point out. I mean, what could be, your take on that? And third and last, for now, I think that market, the issue of not having intellectual property secured for the time being, I think it's a critical issue. You mentioned that later on you would have some games with intellectual property that would be at least owned by you. I want to know, as an investor, how do you blend those two markets that you have, the present market with no intellectual property in your drawer, and the today's market or tomorrow's market where you may have intellectual property? Is it going to be a bumpy ride? How do you equalize, normalize, average down or up, whatever you're doing? Because I think those are some crucial elements. And if I just may quip one last thing, I don't think that Turkey as a market has anything that resembles the Arab market at all. It's totally different. And, Turks are not Arabs. They don't want to be, assimilated to Arabs, and they don't have consumer behavior like Arabs. Of course, it's a market that is relying a lot on Arab capital, but that's another story. But I think, you want to make sure that, you understand your turf very well, because I think, you will have to adapt and localize if you go to places like Turkey.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. These are basically 4 points. A quick one about the presentation. 4. Well, what you received is everything with the backup slides in case I need to open something. I think it is 15 slides that are big, but I'm trying to go because I like pictures, right? But yes, absolutely, we'll be working on reducing them. Question number 2 was the IP.
The IP, the blend of assets that are belonging to third parties versus assets that will belong also to you as a group, and also the capital to get traction.
Yeah. Okay. So let's start with the capital. Currently, what we're doing is using the revenues from the games into remarketing. So this way we can really reutilize the marketing and focus. The capital is going to be burnt mostly on operations, and that this way we leave all the revenue or most of the revenue generated from the game into being reutilized and scaling. We also have we have one deal in place already for user acquisition financing, and we're working on another one. So most of the capital will be in the marketing. That's the biggest expenditure. And that's how we, let's say, arrange it. We do expect to be raising another $3 to $5 million next year in a Series A, and this will help us scale. So this raise is to get us to there. It is not all we need, of course. So that's in terms of capital. In terms of the IP balancing between ownership and not ownership, here's the thing. Once we start having our own IPs and once they're successful, then obviously the focus will go there. We'll start reducing our publishing activities of third party, either become a first party publisher or just a publisher of owned IPs. Because let's face it, there is always a risk for any publisher that doesn't own an IP that once the contract is over, the developer will be like, you know what, I'm self-publishing, you've made me enough money, and I'll keep that percentage and keep growing. And that's why it is important to start owning the IPs. And once this happens, it only makes sense that we basically somewhat detach of third-party publishing, while either we start, as I said, licensing as our own, acquiring as our own, or just have our own development studios building the games that we'd like to publish, which might be slower, but of course better in terms of revenues, and of course in terms of company value. So that's on the progression. So the more IPs we have, the less publishing we do. And the fourth note, yes, I actually have lived and still currently reside in Turkey. I know the culture very well, speak the language absolutely, not fluently, but pretty well. Why I said Swords of Glory. Swords of Glory is a historical, somewhat Islamic tale of the Crusader Wars. And a lot of the heroes, while Muslim, are actually from Turkey. So this part of history, and a lot of it is extremely shared, that we see it in TV, in the pop culture of Turkey today, about some of their heroes, including Ertuğrul, which has a famous TV show here, and others. So this game actually works. Another thing interesting is their top grossing games are also close to the same composition in the region, which is mostly between hardcore games, 4X battle, or 4X strategy games, as well as some localized or local board games that are played in the country. So with these things we could enter, but we don't enter them without a product market fit, of course.
Thank you. Go ahead,
Kyle, may I add just coming back to the issue? Thank you for the answer to the issue of capital. Okay, so you raise 1 million now, but you already said that you got to raise probably another few millions in a year. Now, if I'm an investor and I give you 1 million today, I'll be hanging suspended, by the skin of my teeth, basically for a year. God forbid something happens in this year to the company, everything goes berserk, I've lost my million. Why not raising the total amount that you need to get traction sustainably, so that I know that my money has been utilized to produce revenues rather than just funding, legitimate use of proceeds, but not enough to guarantee the viability of the business yet?
Absolutely.
How do you answer to that?
Absolutely, but so it is not. It is a little different in our region. When I'm saying I'm raising a seed of near $1 million, that is even considered high for a lot. So it's a hard situation. I can't go and raise over $1 million before I am generating over $1 million, basically, and so it is part of the region. Let's call it restrictions. This is what's happening here. So yes, we're happy to raise the 4 million right now, which would definitely get us on track. And even if something goes wrong a little bit, we can we're in a better position. It secures the investor, secures the startup. But the reality of the situation is, in our region, it's not that easy. In all honesty.
So that's a reality for the Asia and the MENA regions, right? It's very difficult to go for that kind of fundraise without getting the right amount of traction as well.
Okay.
So good gentlemen, I want to pause right here to spare Joseph any more questions for today, as we've had a number. Joseph, make sure you connect with all of the investors today. We'll make sure you're connected offline as well. But quick shout out, where can everyone find you and the company online? And then we'll switch into today's conversation.
Thank you again. I'll try to connect to you all on LinkedIn, if that's possible. And it's play3arab.com. Like, check the company, and so if someone other than on the panel would like to reach out, yes, I'd rather if it's info@play3a.com.
There
then
you
we
go.
can check. Thank you guys.
Wonderful.
And
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joseph. Best of luck. And James, Harsh, Giampaolo, let's talk about today's topic around blockchain, gaming, entertainment, esports. Joseph and his company previewed a little bit of what we're going to be talking about today, but I want to just kind of keep it open today and hear from you three on your perspectives, because you're all in different areas around the world. You're all seeing different things. So let's just start with the blanket question of what are you seeing happening in these industries when it comes to blockchain pushing forward the future of entertainment, sports, and esports. James, let's start with you to lay some context to the conversation.
It's unbelievable. I think the last time I did one of these talks with you guys was about a month or two ago. And since then, I mean, it's just continued to boom. And the more from our side, we work with a lot of athletes and professional teams and leagues. And really the thing that we're hearing and we're seeing the most is this is the true democratization of assets. So whether you're an athlete, whether you're a team, whether you're a league, whatever it may be, you can truly take your highlights, you can take your voice, your brand, whatever it may be, and monetize that. And I think this has been something that has been looking to happen for a long time. I think we've seen this surge of physical collectibles and trading cards and that boom during the pandemic. But taking the ability to digitalize that, create this new type of marketplace is really the future. I think as we're seeing right now with this current boom, technology is only going to continue to improve, and this whole digital marketplace concept is going to continue to take over. And I know from a personal side, you can see behind me, I have my college baseball jersey. My college baseball team got cut because they can't fundraise. I'm actually working on something personally to utilize NFTs to create a marketplace for college sports that helps kind of alleviate those issues. So I've seen from the work side, I've seen a ton of different applications, whether it be professional sports, eSports, and even sports betting, there's NFT applications, but also from now collegiate sports side, there's a huge opportunity for schools to take advantage of this. So for us, it's really just the democratization of everything. And I think that NFTs and blockchain are really the ones supporting that.
Well, and NFTs is just a part of the story as well. I mean, just to keep that part of going, it's a great vehicle as well. How do you see that playing into esports? I mean, with 76 Capital, are you seeing any activity in that area, James, on how the NFT non-fungible tokens, again, for our audience who may need that defined, do you see that coming into NFTs, or excuse me, into esports in some way, shape, or form with what you're seeing at 76 Capital?
Yeah, and in the same way that we're seeing it with traditional sports teams, I think esports teams are definitely taking advantage of that, and also streamers. It's really, again, that creating different engagement tactics, I think, is the biggest thing we need right now. You need the return on investment as a fan, and NFTs provide a great way to have that. So I think that all teams right now, if they're not looking at NFTs and blockchain in general as a way to better engage their fans and really just innovate, then they're missing out. So I think that, again, it's something that's been, I think we've heard about blockchain, we've heard about NFTs for a few years now. And I know personally, when we look at investments, I've heard blockchain for years. And I was always kind of trying to understand how it would actually have that application that would make sense. There's a lot of ticketing platforms and things like that. But now we're starting to see this more, again, the pandemic accelerated this, but engagement and having that connection with fans is everything right now. So again, whether it be esports, traditional sports, that's what NFTs and blockchain are providing. So that's where I personally see the future of this. And I think same thing at 76.
I love it. With that, thank you very much, James. Gianpaolo, let me come down to you. What are you seeing in terms of this entire world starting to open up with blockchain coming into these three areas? Again, gaming, entertainment, and esports.
Well, definitely, I think the monetization of brands and the additional windfall that you can receive from the merchandising, sales, and marketing. I think it's a great advantage. And in this context, the blockchain can provide a very ultra secure environment to complete any transaction. So I think the more those sectors will utilize a blockchain technology, with a caveat, of course, to use blockchain only when it's really needed, because we have seen, too many recent examples in just blockchain being inserted in everything just to make it another ingredient of the secret sauce and not really adding up much to the bottom line, not because of blockchain doesn't have inherent value, but because, there was no real match with the business at hand. But in general, I think that for entertainment globally, blockchain represents a fantastic, phenomenal platform. And I begin to recognize, I think, the advent of companies that are born truly universal. I'm actually working on a entertainment project in the film industry on a universal type of company, because I still see that a lot of content that is country driven, culturally driven, and then it gets marketed internationally, sometimes with incredible success and other times with a little bit of a hiccup, and sometimes there are many failures happening in the industry. So I think the world is a global market, and we need to produce global products that are really going for you. And it's sort of like blockchain. Blockchain is a global technology that works for everyone, and that's why it's so successful, because everybody can control and have access to it and control at the same time. So I think producers, manufacturers, and the developers have to think just in the same universal terms and with the same angle of attack as the developers of blockchain have, to really try and conquer the market as quickly as possible, because the time to localize products, I think, is long gone. It was 20th century relic. 21st century will see only the advent and the growth of companies that are born from day one, obviously, universal, global. So I think in that respect, everybody that's capable to think along these lines can be a potential winner.
Thank you, Gianpaolo. Harsh, to you, same question. What are you seeing and what does this all mean for you and from a global perspective, but also locally in India as well?
Got it. So unfortunately, locally, there's not much happening because of the government restriction in the same. The government crypto ban is kind of, squeezing the life out of the blockchain industry. But globally, if you look at it, I definitely see a lot of changes happening, right? So there are specific two use cases which I think would really go in the long way, right? One I would say would be in the college, at the college and the school level, player management, right? That becomes a huge challenge. We could what interesting use case which I see is in the university and at the college level, you can have the upcoming players which can be listed on a blockchain kind of directly platform, and you can have these clubs, NBA, NFL, MLB, etc. They can find scouts at a very young level, and this entire infrastructure is created on blockchain technology, where they can kind of directly interface and directly communicate with these players at the grassroots level and interact with them directly. Right now, it becomes extremely difficult with the way the current setup is. This is one of the major use cases which I can see, really kind of taking it to the next level. So, if you look at it in terms of the way it's been structured, right? Esports is definitely going to go a long way, but the application is not limited just to esports. It's going to be applicable even to the real life sports as well. Just right now, another example would be a lot of these sports. So, for example, in India, we have this tournament called IPL. It's like the largest cricket tournament in India, and it's we have just like the NBA format, players from different countries coming together and playing the sport, right? Imagine us doing a structure like this, but there's not a single audience, right? How about you can distribute it through pay-per-views built on a blockchain technology? Imagine using blockchain technology for licensing the pay-per-views, and the blockchain technology keeps it so safe enough that you don't have to worry about piracy. I believe the biggest use case for blockchain is not yet being focused upon, and obviously it can help in security and all the other aspects. But I think the biggest use case for blockchain and these kind of events, in terms of media, in terms of sports, in terms of digital sports, is how they can restrain piracy. So that is, I think, going to be one of the major use cases. The only drawback for that use case is that blockchain tends to be a little slower. It takes some time to kind of get back to the data and retrieve the data, etc. Because essentially it's like a data retrieval mechanism, right? If we can kind of see a blockchain 2.0 which is slightly faster than the way it's currently structured, and it can be completely beneficial in terms of stopping piracy at a larger scale. So this is one of the 2-3 major use cases which I see.
So great points. In being sensitive of time today, as we're getting close to the top of the hour, I want to come around for closing thoughts. And in this closing thought, in addition to where you can be found, also would love to hear areas of opportunity. Because when it comes to the future of fan engagement, when we start to look at things like esports, on and off ramps of digital collectibles, direct to avatar business models, seeing those digital representations of us, I mean, this is just the beginning, and there's a ton of opportunity to start building and investing in this space. So we'd love to hear your areas of opportunity, and then of course where you can be found. Harsh, let's start with you. What areas of opportunity should people be thinking about either building and or investing in this space, and then where can everyone find you as well? Harsh, that's to you. I don't know if there's a delay, but that question was to you. Okay, we'll come back to you here in just a minute. Apologies. Harsh, you there? Nope. Okay, it looks like Gianpaolo will come to you first. So where do you see the areas of opportunity that people should be building and investing in this space? And then, of course, where can you be found online to continue the conversation, maybe even talk more about the project that you're working on as well?
You can find me on LinkedIn, on Twitter, on email at gianpaoloparigi1@gmail.com. And in terms of areas of opportunity, I think, there's a huge consolidation play in brand monetization at any level, from, of course, the top picks, to the, regional brands. There's so much that can be done today thanks to the technology. And definitely this is something that I am quite intrigued and investigating together with companies that want to, expand the market and promote and of course, raise their brands to a level they could generate through these additional new forms of revenues, profit. So always open to discuss that. I think, monetization is the name of the game. Thank you.
Thank you as well, Gianpaolo. James, to you, closing thoughts of opportunities and where can you be found online?
Sure. No, I think Gianpaolo hit on the head. I think that monetization from a brand perspective is everything. And I think this is one of the first times we've really, again, seen that democratization. It's across any industry. It can really be for any creator. It's about finding the right marketplace, finding the right crypto to back that, and then also understanding the right way to use the blockchain from the company that's actually building the platform. So I think if we're looking at it from an overall macro level at a sports perspective, opportunities are endless. And it's really, at this point, it's really who's going to be first to market, who's going to really be able to capitalize on the technology and on this opportunity to build this unique fan engagement tool and these unique different ways to build a brand, and who's going to do that successfully in the short term. So again, I think that this is just the beginning. It's been amazing these last few months, last few years, especially the last few months to see the boom. And again, I'm working on something specifically in the collegiate sports space with blockchain and NFT. So anybody is interested in that, finding out more, please reach out to me. I'm on, you can see my Twitter and Instagram handle is in there. It's at James Santor. You can also find me on LinkedIn, and feel free to email me at james@76capital.com.
Thank you very much, James. I think Harsh is back with us. Harsh, in your closing thoughts, where are the areas of opportunity people should be focused on, either building or investing, and where can they find you online to continue the conversation?
Got it. So definitely some of the areas which I mentioned, right? Those are kind of like a good broad areas which we can look at to kind of scale it up at the large level. Obviously, the most basic one, like having like collectible videos, it's already being worked upon. Additionally, what we can also look at it in terms of e-games. You see a lot of these e-games kind of doing a lot of reward-based tokens, right? A lot of times they also create communities on Discord, etc. So that could be another opportunity how we can create an entire social network primarily structured on blockchain, so that will be fundamentally more secure, especially for gamers. So I'm a very active Discord user myself because I'm a heavy gamer myself. So kind of something similar along those lines where we can have a blockchain-based social network, etc. But at the same time, I would like to caution as well, because as you mentioned earlier in the intro note, right, NFTs have gone through a huge crazy boom in the first quarter. So we normally tend to see whenever a new technology comes, there's this sudden huge surge, and then it leads to a huge collapse as well. So unfortunately, a lot of people tend to lose a lot of money, and it kind of takes away the essence of what the technology is. So I hope it doesn't come to that level where we kind of forget the beauty of the technology and end up focusing on just the negative thing which happened when eventually there comes a collapse. So it's extremely important to do your own due diligence and identify the right sectors to focus on rather than just kind of blindly getting into the entire, because it takes a lot of skills and resources as well. And if anyone wants to reach me, I'll be happy to connect on LinkedIn, whether it be blockchain or anything in tech sort. I'll be happy to help out. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Harsh, Gianpaolo, James as well. Thank you very much for sharing all your thoughts and insights. Joseph, thank you for sharing your company to our audience. Make sure you reach out to all four of our panelists today, James, Harsh, and Gianpaolo from the investment side, and Joseph for him and his team and his company as well. Again, make sure you reach out to each of them, connect, add context where you heard them, where you met them, and what you would like to continue the conversation about as well. And a big thank you to tuning in. Make sure you like the episode, share it, and also check out the archive on LATOKEN.com to hear from today's speakers and all speakers of the VCTV family. Find me on Twitter along with all of our speakers on all social media as well. With that being said, a big thank you to the LATOKEN team and to Maria for making today's episode possible. I'm your host, Kyle Ellicott. We'll be back here tomorrow with more VCTV.
Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.